The phone rang at exactly 3 in the morning, shattering the silence of Dante Moretti's penthouse. He'd been awake anyway, staring at divorce papers he still couldn't bring himself to file away, even 15 months after signing them. His hand trembled slightly as he answered, his voice rough with exhaustion and old grief. "Mr. Moretti, this is Grace Memorial Hospital. I'm sorry to call at this hour, but there's been an incident. A young woman was brought in after a severe car accident. She's in critical condition, and, sir, she named you as the father of her child. The baby is 3 months old, currently in RNICU. We need you to come immediately." Dante's blood ran cold. Father. That was impossible. He and his ex-wife Elena had never had children. It was the wound that had slowly bled their marriage dry. But something in the nurse's urgent tone made him move. 20 minutes later, he walked through the hospital doors, his security team trailing discreetly behind, unaware that this moment would crack open everything he thought he knew about love, sacrifice, and redemption. The business world knew Dante Moretti as a ruthless corporate titan who'd built an empire from his family's legacy. What they whispered about in shadowed corners was darker, connections to old money, old power, the kind that didn't ask permission. At 42, he'd survived betrayals that would have destroyed lesser men, had made decisions that haunted his dreams, and had learned to trust no one. Except Elena. He'd trusted Elena with everything, and when she'd walked away, citing his emotional unavailability and inability to build a real family, something vital inside him had simply shut down. Now, following a nurse down sterile corridors, he struggled to understand what was happening. The nurse led him to a small consultation room where a doctor waited, her face grave. "Mr. Moretti, the patient's name is Sophie Chen. Do you know her?" Sophie. The name hit him like a physical blow. Sophie, Elena's younger sister, the brilliant medical student who'd always been kind to him even when the rest of Elena's family treated him like a dangerous stranger. Sophie, who'd disappeared from all their lives about 18 months ago, right around the time his marriage was falling apart. "Sophie is my ex-wife's sister," Dante said slowly. "But I don't understand. Why would she?" The doctor's expression softened with something like sympathy. "Mr. Moretti, before we go further, you should know that Sophie's injuries are severe. She's been asking for you, but we're not sure how much time she has. She's been very clear that you're listed as the guardian for her son, Marco. She has documents, all legally prepared." None of this made sense. Dante felt like he was moving through a dream as they led him to Sophie's room. The vibrant young woman he remembered was barely recognizable, her face bruised and swollen, machines breathing for her, tubes and wires connecting her to life by the thinnest threads. But when she saw him, her eyes flickered with recognition and something that looked like relief. He took her hand, this girl who'd once made him laugh at family dinners, who'd defended him to her judgmental relatives, who'd told him he was good enough for her sister when he doubted himself. "Dante," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Thank you for coming. I knew you would." "Sophie, what's going on?" "The baby. Marco," she breathed. "My son. Dante, I need to tell you everything, and I don't have much time." Tears slipped down her bruised cheeks. 18 months ago, I was raped. A attending physician at my hospital. I reported it, but he was connected, powerful. They buried it. Destroyed my career before it started. I found out I was pregnant a month later. Dante's jaw clenched, old instincts rising. The kind of justice he could deliver for such crimes. But Sophie squeezed his hand weakly. "I thought about ending the pregnancy. Everyone said I should, but I couldn't. This baby didn't ask to be born from violence. He deserved a chance." Her breathing was labored, each word a struggle. "I couldn't tell Elena. She was already dealing with your divorce. My parents, they would have been ashamed. So I disappeared. Went to a small town upstate, worked as a waitress, had Marco alone." "You should have called me," Dante said, his voice breaking. "Sophie, you didn't have to go through that alone. I know. But I was scared and stupid and proud. Then, 3 months ago, when Marco was born. Dante, he's perfect. He's innocent and beautiful, and every time I look at him, I see hope instead of horror. He saved me. Loving him healed something I thought was broken forever." She coughed, wincing in pain. The monitors beeped frantically, and a nurse appeared, checking her vitals with concern. "Why me?" Dante asked urgently. "Why name me as his guardian? Sophie's smile was sad and knowing. Because in all the years I knew you, even when Elena couldn't see it, I saw who you really are. You're not the cold businessman everyone thinks. You're loyal. You protect the people you love with everything you have. You wanted a family so desperately, and Elena couldn't see that her walls were what kept you distant, not your heart. She took a shuddering breath. Marco needs someone who will fight for him. Who will love him fiercely. Someone who understands that family isn't just about blood. You're that person, Dante. You always were. The doctor stepped in, her expression urgent. Mr. Moretti, we need to take her to surgery now. It's her only chance. Sophie gripped his hand with surprising strength. Promise me. Promise you'll take care of him. Love him like he's yours. Give him the family you always wanted to build. Please. I promise, Dante said, tears streaming down his face for the first time in years. I swear to you, Sophie. I'll protect him with my life. They wheeled her away, and Dante stood in that hallway, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. A nurse touched his arm gently. Would you like to meet Marco, Mr. Moretti? He's been fed and changed. He's been such a good baby, considering everything. They led him to the NICU, and there, in a small clear bassinet, was the tiniest human Dante had ever seen. Marco had a shock of dark hair, delicate features, and when the nurse carefully placed him in Dante's arms, the baby's eyes opened, deep brown and impossibly trusting. Something inside Dante's chest cracked wide open. This child, born from violence but carried with love, orphaned by tragedy but somehow still peaceful in his arms. This was everything Dante had ever wanted and never thought he'd have. A chance to protect someone purely innocent. A chance to build the family his own broken childhood had denied him. A chance to prove that love could be stronger than the darkness he'd known. Hey there, little man, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I've got you now. You're safe. I promise you're safe. Sophie didn't survive the surgery. She died knowing her son would be protected, loved, and cherished. At her funeral, Elena appeared, shocked to learn about her sister's ordeal and the nephew she'd never known existed. The sisters had drifted apart during the pregnancy, both too proud and hurt to bridge the gap. I can take him, Elena said quietly to Dante as mourners offered condolences. He's my blood, my family. Dante looked at Marco, sleeping peacefully in the carrier beside him. So am I. Maybe not by blood, but Sophie made me his father. She trusted me with her most precious gift. I'm not walking away from that. You don't know anything about babies. About being a parent. Neither do you, Dante replied, not unkindly. But I know about loyalty. About fighting for the people you love. About keeping promises even when they're hard. Sophie knew that about me, even if you never did. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I was wrong about you, Dante. I thought you couldn't open your heart, but I was the one with walls. I'm sorry. I know. But that's not what matters now. What matters is this little boy getting the life he deserves. Over the following months, Dante transformed. The feared businessman began leaving the office at 5 to make bottles and change diapers. His penthouse filled with toys and baby equipment. His security team became unexpected uncles, tough men who melted around the infant. Dante hired a nanny, Mrs. Rodriguez, a grandmother who'd raised 6 kids and taught him everything from burping techniques to lullabies. But the real transformation was internal. Holding Marco during 3 a.m. feedings, Dante found himself talking to the baby about everything. His own difficult childhood, his regrets about Elena, his hopes for Marco's future. The baby became his confessor, his purpose, his redemption. Your mom was braver than anyone I've ever known, he'd whisper. She chose love when the world gave her every reason to choose hate. That's your legacy, Marco. Not the violence that created you, but the love that protected you. When Marco turned 1, Dante threw a party that would have made Sophie proud. Nothing extravagant, just the people who'd become their unlikely family. Mrs. Rodriguez and her husband, the security team, a few trusted colleagues, and Elena, who'd slowly built a relationship with her nephew and, surprisingly, with Dante. As Marco smashed his birthday cake with gleeful abandon, Elena approached Dante on the terrace. She knew, Elena said softly. Sophie knew you'd be an amazing father. She saw it before either of us did. She gave me a gift I can never repay, Dante replied, watching Marco laugh as Mrs. Rodriguez wiped frosting from his face. She trusted me with innocence when my whole life had been about protecting myself from betrayal. She believed I could be better than my worst instincts. Are you better? Dante considered this. I'm trying. Every day, I look at that little boy, and I try to be the man Sophie believed I could be. The man who chooses love over fear. Protection over revenge. Family over power. That's all any of us can do, Elena said. She paused, then added, he's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one, Dante corrected. Sophie gave me something I thought I'd lost forever, a reason to believe in goodness. In second chances. In love that doesn't demand perfection, just presence. Years later, when Marco was old enough to understand, Dante would tell him the whole truth. About the brave mother who'd loved him despite impossible circumstances, about the choice she'd made to give him life and then to ensure his future. He'd tell him about Sophie's strength, her sacrifice, her absolute faith that love could heal even the deepest wounds. But every night, as he tucked Marco into bed, Dante lived the truth Sophie had known all along. That family isn't defined by how it begins, but by the love that sustains it. That fatherhood isn't about biology but about showing up, day after day, choosing to protect and cherish and guide. The Mafia boss had received many calls in his life, most bringing news of deals and dangers. But the call that came 15 months after his divorce, the one that made him a father, was the only one that truly changed him. It transformed a man built for survival into a man capable of nurturing. It turned his power into protection, his resources into provision, his isolated heart into a home. And Sophie, wherever she was, surely knew that her greatest act of faith had become his greatest source of grace.